Welcome to a new episode of Cyber Review. Today we're talking with Benjamin Strout about his book, The Vulnerability Researcher's Handbook. He's a veteran of technology industry and a passionate technology communicator. His experience in healthcare, biotech, pharmaceutical, and fintech industries had led him into a role as a lead penetration tester at one of the largest healthcare conglomerates in the United States. He's also the founder and point of contact of Maine Local DEFCON Group. Hi, Benjamin. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hi, thanks for having me.
Okay, that's awesome. So, how did you get into cybersecurity? Tell us about yourself.
Oh my gosh. So I got started in IT generally, like maybe like up to like 15 years ago. But in the last 6, 7 years, I moved into cybersecurity. I started off in a very basic cybersecurity role for like DevSecOps, and then I eventually became a penetration tester, where I do testing on one of the largest corporate hospital networks that are out there today.
Great. So, what inspired you to write this book, and what do you hope to get readers will gain from reading the book?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was inspired to write this book because, my own experience. When I first got into security, and just operations in general, I found myself finding vulnerabilities with the question, okay, I found a vulnerability. Now what? Like, what do you do with that? The answer is it's complicated, and there's not really, a guide that kind of takes you through that process. There's disparate pieces of information that are kind of like tribal, and they're just isolated. What I wanted to do is I wanted to take sort of the hard-earned experience of going through this painful process of disclosing vulnerabilities and sort of encapsulate it in a nice, easy to read and consume format that kind of takes you from, understanding what a vulnerability is, how to like organize your research, and then ultimately going through that very complicated, drawn out process of disclosing it, publishing it, and then, eventually just sort of getting it out to the public so everyone can benefit from your research and make software safer.
Okay, that sounds good. And can you give us a brief overview of your book?
So a brief overview of the book. So the book, starts off, it's actually broken into like three sections, right? The first section kind of talks about vulnerabilities, what are 0 days, and we talk a little bit about how vulnerability scanners work, things like that. We really just kind of level set on some certain terminology because I think a lot of things in the vulnerability and vulnerability research space, they're used interchangeably. So like a lot of people don't know like what you're talking about sometimes if you talk about a language in a certain way. So we sort of level set there, and then we break into like, okay, now that you have this vulnerability, what do you do about it? What are the risks that you might run into as a researcher disclosing this? How do you talk to vendors? Things like that. So after that section, we kind of break into case studies and examples where you kind of walk through a few stories about people who have done this process, as I explained, and the kind of problems they ran into and what came from that. And then we go into basically a vendor's guide. I wanted to offer some advice if you're a vendor or you manage or provide services to any company that makes software. This is a really good kind of thing to like help you understand how to work with people like me when we come with vulnerabilities to you, and then some resources at the end. So that's it in a nutshell.
And can you share a few tips for newcomers in the field?
Yeah, I should always say that if you're new, even if you don't have a huge technical background, it takes people of all sorts. So your unique perspective is always good. So lean into that. The most important thing I think is to find something that you're very interested in researching. There's so much software out there and so many things that you can look at. And I would say that research tends to be frustrating because you fail more often than you succeed. Find something that you're really interested and passionate about, and then kind of like lean into that. Otherwise, you might find yourself like not liking it and maybe not not researching. Like I can't do this, but you can. Like and a lot of the vulnerabilities that are some of the vulnerabilities that we cover in the book are something that you can really just formulaically approach and ultimately discover and help close.
Okay, thank you for those tips. So now this is our final question. Where can readers get your book and how they can connect with you?
Yeah, so you can get the book on Amazon. It's actually I'll send a link to you, but it's on Amazon. It's called the Vulnerability Researcher's Handbook. It's also available through Packet Publishing directly, and most major booksellers and ebook sellers have it as well. If you'd like to connect with me, I would love to talk to you. I'm on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is it's Ben Strout, so it's Benstrout. So just look me up. You could actually go to N and then Ben Strout, and I'll be there. And yeah, just reach out, and if you have questions about how to get started or any problems that you'd like to share with me, I would love to hear about them and collaborate and make vulnerability research more accessible and democratized for folks.
So thank you so much, Benjamin. We wish you all the best with this new book and looking forward to a new one in the future, right?
Yeah, definitely. I've got the ideas going, so
Okay, sounds great.
thanks,
Thank
Sophia.
you.
Bye bye.